All right. So it's another beautiful Monday evening here, catching the fall vibes. It's still the weather's not too bad, but it is getting pretty nippy at night. I want to thank everyone for coming out to the live Zoom meeting and spending your time with me. That means a lot. First, I'm going to run over for brand new people that have never seen this before or who are seeing it for the first time with the replay on YouTube. This is a stream or a little workshop about a cryptocurrency called Hex that is, I think, the best cryptocurrency out there, hands down, at this time. And what it is, how to use it, some things to keep in mind. First off the bat, I'm not a financial advisor. This is all for information and education. If you guys make a ton of money, then you guys get to keep it. And if you lose a bunch of money, then that's also something you get to keep, is that experience. So I don't take responsibility for your actions. You do, obviously. Cryptocurrency is highly volatile and it's a new asset. So there is a large risk involved. You could possibly lose everything that you put into crypto. And so it's high risk, high reward. And then with that being said, if you plan on using any of your money over the next 2 years for bills, for cost of living, for anything like that, then I would highly recommend not investing in that money into crypto. If you need that money for the next 2 years, I suggest keep it in a bank, pay off a credit card, keep it under your mattress in cash, and have it on hand, because if you're expecting to use this money in the near future and the price goes down, like right now we're in a dip, then that may add a lot of undue stress to your life and put you in a bad position, so you're not able to make good choices for your future. So that being said, I'm going to say Hex. What is Hex? The first thing that I would like people to know about Hex and cryptocurrency is that you are responsible for your own passwords, your own information, and your own keys. Okay, so if there is if you lose your password, if you lose your seed phrase, then there's no one that can really help you get that money back. Right, it's on your shoulders. So I would recommend that you write down all of your information in a safe place and write it by hand. I wouldn't keep it electronic, because electronics are easier to get to and easier to hack than a piece of paper in a safe or a vault or a safety deposit box. And so write down your information, write it down in a safe place, write it down by hand, make copies and put them at other safe locations if you have another safe location to keep it at. So I really can't stress that enough. I've had quite a few people, even in the last week, contact me and say, "Hey Max, did you keep a copy of my 12 words for me? Because I can't find mine and my computer reset and now I don't have access to it." So yeah, definitely keep that stuff. Keep it in a safe place, and more than one safe place if possible. So with those disclaimers out of the way, what is Hex? What is cryptocurrency? What is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is basically a ledger online that keeps track of digital money. And the way that it keeps track of where the money is it pays miners in its own coin, Bitcoin, to secure the network and to make it hard to hack the network and to print extra coins that should not be on the ledger. So it's a big ledger, and the two main things that you can do with Bitcoin are you can mine it, which is securing the network, and you can get paid in Bitcoin, and you can send it. But those are really the main two things that people use Bitcoin for. And Bitcoin is not ran by a corporation. It's not ran by a government. It's not ran by a bank. It's ran by computer code. And it came out about 11 or 12 years ago. Maybe it was about 11 years ago. It came out, and it's been, doing its thing. The reason that Bitcoin continues to go up is that the reward that the miners get paid for securing the network gets cut in half approximately every 4 years. So every 4 years, the supply gets tightened down a little bit. And so every 4 years, you see a reaction to that tightening of the supply, where the price has been spiking about every 4 years. So that's a quick little explanation of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Now, Hex is a lot like Bitcoin, with a couple of differences. Instead of paying the miners to secure the network, Hex pays its inflation to the people who promise not to sell it over a certain amount of time. And that's the main difference between Hex and Bitcoin. So the longer you lock up Hex, or the longer you promise not to sell Hex with a smart contract with the computer, the more interest will get paid to you. So a lot of people are familiar with a bank CD, where you put a bunch of money in the bank and you promise to leave it there for a certain amount of time, and the bank pays you interest and returns your money at a future date. So here we do that, but we do it without a bank. We have a computer code where you promise, I'm going to lock up these Hex tokens for this number of time, this amount of time. And then at the end of that time, you're able to, get your original amount of tokens back, plus the interest that the code pays you. And recently on our network, the Hex smart contract runs on the Ethereum network, and that's the network that keeps track of these smart contracts and keeps track of all the records. And this last year, we've seen an insane growth or increase in the fees that we've been paying to lock and unlock our Hex. And so right now, we're all eagerly waiting for a new network to use called Pulse Chain. And the best estimates right now, today is November 22nd, Monday, November 22nd. And the best estimates we have right now of that coming out are in the next 2 months, give or take a month or two. So we're waiting for testnet, the second testnet, or testnet 2, to come out for people to practice and work out all the bugs on testnet 2. Then we're hoping that'll be out in the next week. And then after that's out for about a month or two, they're hoping to do the full launch. And when they do the full launch, at this point, if you have liquid Hex or if you have locked Hex, then you're going to get a copy on the new network. So your tokens will basically double, and your contracts, or the locked up Hex paying you interest, those contracts will also double on the new chain. So a lot of people are very eagerly waiting for this gift of free coins, not just Hex, but other coins and tokens that also run on the Ethereum network right now. People are waiting for those copies as well. So with that big mouthful and that explanation of cryptocurrency and Hex and Pulse Chain coming out, does anyone have any questions about the stuff that I've covered on that basic overview at this time? Check that. Let me pull up the chat. I don't have the chat up here. All right, great. So that being said, some of the interesting stuff that's coming out here soon, hopefully, or that we're looking at, is get this a little bit bigger here. All right, yeah. So the stuff that we're really excited about coming up here, the Pulse chain, things like that. There are some projects coming out on Pulse chain that I've been trying to learn about and study up on before they come to fruition or before the launch of Pulse chain. And one of the big things that people have needed or like to use in cryptocurrency are called stable coins. So they have these stable coins that are pegged at a currency. Most of the popular stable coins, of course, are pegged to the US dollar. And so these tokens or these coins are usually within a penny or two of the dollar. And some have come and some have gone, some have failed completely. But the two that are the most popular coins right now are USDC and USDT. So that's the US dollar coin and US dollar tether. Those are the two most widely used stable coins that people use right now, because some people don't want all of their wealth tied into an asset that's fluctuating crazily against the cost of goods and services, which a lot of people, the whole point of making money is so that you can spend it on goods and services. And as you know, most of those things are priced in dollars in our everyday life, stuff we buy on Amazon and at the store. So a lot of people like to keep some or all of their cryptocurrency in these stable coins, so that they know the dollar value of their portfolio and it's not changing as dramatically. And so on the Ethereum chain or the Ethereum network, we have USDT and USDC. Now, when the Pulse chain launches and people get a copy of their stable coins on the Pulse chain, it's not likely that the Tether coin and the USDC coin are going to be valid or treated as valid by the people that control those two networks. They control the Tether network and the USDC network. So that being said, a lot of people are looking for a new stable coin to show up on the Pulse chain, so you can have a stable coin on there. And so I've been researching a protocol that's hoping to put together a stable coin on the Pulse network, and looking at it and kind of seeing who's behind it, how stable the different ones are, what the code's looking like, and things of that nature. So I've been looking into different stable coins that we can use there. The other thing that I've been spending my time researching are collateralized loans. So just in the same way right now that you would get a home equity loan from the bank, you go to the bank, you use your house as collateral for the loan, and then the bank will loan you a portion of what your house is worth in equity. They usually won't give you 90% or even much higher, but they'll usually give you 50, 60, 70% of the equity in your house in a loan, depending on your credit score. So in crypto, because the value of our coins and tokens is so volatile and fluxes and waxes and wanes so much, we actually it's harder to do collateralized loans, because the amount of collateral that you need will change, and also the equity or the value of your coin will change dramatically. And so if you don't have enough equity or enough collateral backing up the loan, then of course it'll go into default and you would lose whatever coins you have that you use as collateral, and instead you would be left with the coin that you were given in return. So let me see if I can go through this a little bit lower level. So let's say Pulse Chain launches and you either bought a bunch of Pulse in the pre-sale that's already happened, or you buy a whole bunch of Pulse coins when they come out. So you got this big bag of Pulse coins. Let's say you don't want to sell. Let's say you have $1,000 worth of Pulse coins and you have an expense come up or you'd like to pay for something, but you don't want to take those 1,000 Pulse coins to an exchange, pay the fees, pay the slippage, and cash them out and be liable for, a capital gains, whatever you've made on the coins at that point, short-term or long-term capital gains. What a lot of people do, a lot of people in finance do that have a ton of stocks or bonds or financial instruments that are worth a lot of money, instead of selling those stocks on the market and hurting the price, because you're probably going to have some Pulse that you don't want to sell and then some Pulse that you do want to use. So you don't want to hurt the price of the rest of your Pulse by selling that $1,000 of Pulse on the market and possibly getting hit with taxes. So what a lot of people do is they take their, millions of dollars or thousands of dollars worth of stocks or bonds or houses, as we said earlier, and they use that as collateral. And they get a loan because loans aren't taxed like capital gains are taxed. And so you have this system where instead of having to sell your coins in the future, you may be able to use them as collateral and back up a loan and use that loan to do the things that you've wanted to do with your crypto. And, most people I talk to and most people I deal with, we're looking at their financial goals, whether it's paying off a house, going on vacation, paying off your parents' house, things of this nature, retiring from a job. You're looking at these big milestones or these big life-changing events in your life. And so instead of having to cash out the coins and then, in which case, usually over time, we see the coins appreciate. And so you're going to be kicking yourself for selling the coins, and unless the thing you sold them for is so valuable that you really don't care if the coin goes up after you sell it. Right. So you can go set your coins up as collateral. You can get a loan and you can use that loan to do whatever it is your financial goals are. And then you can pay back that loan at the same price that you had locked those coins in. So for instance, this is part of the beauty of it. Let's say that, Pulse is a penny, for instance, and you take a whole bunch of your Pulse, you use them to collateralize a loan at a penny, and the price of Pulse keeps climbing to 10 cents or whatever. This is all hypothetical. These are not price predictions. You get to go back and pay off your loan at 1 cent Pulse and buy your Pulse back at 1 cent. You don't have to go and now buy the Pulse at 10 cents. So that's one of the beauties besides the tax advantages. Now, the tricky part is that this is all code, computer code, and computer code is tricky. And as Richard Hart says, computer code with finances is very, very tricky, which is, we were hoping that the Pulse chain would come out over a month ago. And now we're waiting 2 to 4 months most likely for it. So there's a lot of work. There's a lot of bugs. There's a lot of things that you really want to get right when it comes to code, when it involves money, obviously. So we will have to see if these codes come out and if they work. And if you're obviously you don't want to risk any more than you have to in something that hasn't been, proven by other people. So I just covered a lot there, and I don't think I did it in a very succinct way or in a very A to B port way. So do you guys have any questions on the ideas of stable coins or loaning your tokens and what that might look like? And if you don't want to unmute your mic and use your voice, you can also type a question in chat as well.
I have a couple of questions about the loans.
Oh, great.
So my first one is, who is the entity that is backing? Like, are you giving away are you putting them on an exchange? Are you losing the keys to your coins? Who is paying the cash out? And at which point, like, it's locked in that, like, say you take a loan you have $10,000 in Pulse and you get a $1,000 loan. Do you give them all of your Pulse? Do you give them a portion of your Pulse? Do you retain ownership of your Pulse? How does that work?
My understanding so far is that it's a lot like the Hex contract. Okay, so when you stake your Hex for interest, you're basically locking your tokens into a smart contract where you still hold the keys, right? So you're sacrificing your Hex for a smart contract that is supposed to keep track of your principal and your interest and your timeline. And you pay a fee right now you pay a fee on the Ethereum network to write this contract and keep track of it, keep a record of it, right? So I'm guessing that if you were to get a loan, or if you were to put up the collateralization for the loan, right? Because there's going to be two sides to this market. There's going to be a side of people borrowing money, and there's going to be a side of people lending the money, right? So in this, you actually have an option to not only use the bank, but to be the bank. So my understanding as it is right now, and I hope to get a lot more clarification from this on an interview that I'm doing Wednesday with a much smarter person than me, is that you would take your Pulse and you would lock them in a contract, and you would still have the keys, the private keys to that contract, but the contract would work with the terms that you agreed to. So, let's say that the contract said, I'm going to lock $1,000 worth of Pulse coins, and I'm going to borrow half of it. All right. So let's say I'm going to collateralize. I'm going to lock up $1,000 of Pulse coins, and I want a loan for $500. And so the contract, as I understand, these contracts are interest free, but they're not fee free. So you'll pay a fee, but you won't pay interest on this loan. And so you might enter into a contract that says, I promise to pay back 500 stable coins within a year, or whatever time period it ends up being, or that you agree to. And you might say, okay, I promise that I'm going to pay back $500 in these stable coins in the next year. And when I do that, then it will unlock these $1,000 worth of Pulse coins that are worth $1,000 on this date, right? And then obviously there's going to be some, because the Pulse coins are going to continue to fluctuate during that year of your loan, right? So you may have to, that's why you may want to over collateralize your loan, because let's say that $1,000 worth of Pulse drops in value down to $200. Well, at that point, they would take your $1,000 worth of Pulse coins, or what used to be $1,000 worth of Pulse coins would be, those would be not sacrificed, not forfeit. Okay, so you would forfeit your $1,000 worth of Pulse coins, but you would be able to keep the $500 worth of stable coins, right? So in a way, it's kind of like insurance, right? If you were to play that side. Now, let's say that you're on the other side, right? Let's say that you're the bank, and let's say you buy a whole bunch of these stable coins, and you put them up and you say, look, I'm here to facilitate anyone's loan, right? So you're saying, I'm going to take $1,000 worth of these stable coins, and I'm going to, basically underwrite or cosign for these people that are putting up their pulse to get a loan, right? So at that point, you would take your 1,000 stable dollar coins, you would lock them into a contract that says, I'm basically funding this loan, and I will receive these fees and this interest. Well, not interest in this case, but these fees. And if the price, if this person forfeits, I will receive a portion of the pulse that they forfeit, right? So basically, on that side of the contract, you'd basically be buying the dip, so to speak, right? Because if the price of the coin plummets that they put up as collateral and you end up losing your dollar coins, you're buying this dip in the pulse at that time. Does that make more sense? Or as far as like where are the keys and who controls it and how you lock it up? And all of that could be completely wrong. This is what I've been trying to figure out and my understanding of studying it so far. So I may not understand it, and I very well may not be explaining it very well. So please take all of this with a grain of salt, or as some a thought experiment or some information on what may be coming down, what may be coming to fruition. What do you think about that, Jake? And again, anyone that wants to type a question or unmute their mic is welcome to ask a question as well. Go ahead, Mike. Jake.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, sorry. So off the top of my head, it just the question of the difference between taxes for loans versus capital gains taxes, because that's in essence what the most obvious use of this would be to get around getting I want to be G-rated, getting taken advantage of by the government and being smart with how you turn your crypto into fiat is kind of the best, most obvious use of this. Or am I missing something kind of?
No, I think that obviously tax strategies, could be used for tax strategy, definitely. But like I said, there are a lot of people that cashed out their coins, their crypto coins, whether it's Bitcoin back in the day, and they made a ton of money in Bitcoin, and they sold a bunch of Bitcoin and paid off their house when Hex hit $1,000, right? So what if they were to have taken a loan on their Bitcoin at that point and paid off their house and been able to retain and maintain and hold on to those Bitcoin after they, finish paying off the loan that they used to pay off their house, either, with some other crypto gains, or if they're able to pay off their house by continuing to work at a job, you know, and then they still hung on to those Bitcoin, and now those Bitcoin are worth tens of thousands of dollars. That's another thing that makes this pretty useful, is you don't have to lose your spot in line, so to speak. You get to hang on to your winning lottery ticket as it appreciates versus selling the lottery ticket and that's it. So that's another advantage that I definitely see here, is hanging on to your coins into the future, because I mean, Bitcoin did 6 million, over 6 million percent from its beginnings, and Ethereum did over 4 million, or maybe even more than that from its beginnings. So, if these people had, in an essence, pawned their coins and gone back to the pawn shop and picked them up, they'd be really happy today. Now, on the flip side of that, let's say that someone has a whole bunch of Bitcoin. Let's say you have 10 Bitcoin, or let's say you have 100 Bitcoin, right? So you have 100 Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin goes up to $100,000, and the mortgage left on your house is $100,000. At this point, you could sell your Bitcoin for $100,000 and, try to get away with your capital gains and not pay taxes on it, and then go put it on your house and pay off your house. That's one way of, selling the Bitcoin, paying off your house, and reaching the goal of paying off your house. But what if you taken those that $100,000 worth of Bitcoin and put it up as collateral in one of these lending services, and they paid you 8%, 10% a year, whatever it is in interest or in fees that you're making on providing this, this collateral. And what if you turn around and you took that same 8 or 10% and cashed it out and paid capital gains on it and ended up paying off your house over the course of the next few years with that extra money? So basically you could have your cake and eat it too, right? So you don't always have to be the one going into debt to 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 capitalize on these systems, right? You can be the one, you can be the pawn shop, or you can be the guy walking into the pawn shop. You can be the guy walking into the bank getting a home equity loan, or you can be the bank, which is something that has not existed. I mean, for a long, long time, during my working years, I thought of two businesses that I knew would guarantee me financial success. One was owning a casino, and one was owning a bank. And I don't know any of you that know someone that owns a bank or owns a casino or has tried, founding a bank or a casino, but they're very, very difficult to get to either buy or obtain or start. There's a very big barrier to entry when you start a bank or a casino. But how many banks and casinos do you see go out of business? A very, very small fraction, because the systems are set up for banks and casinos to continually make money. They make money off of people's mistakes, off of people's impatience. They make money off of the fact that people simply cannot wait for a certain amount of money to get things done in life, whether it's starting a business, having a family, fixing a car. Human beings aren't great at riding the timeline. Something always comes up that you're not expecting in your business, in your job, or in your family life. And so because of that, banks and casinos, they've taken advantage of the fact that human beings, either are willing to, risk something for a reward, or that, human beings get into a pinch, right? And, trillions and trillions of dollar industries are built up around the fact that human beings are human beings. And so when I was watching one of these videos, and actually, I'll put the same video that I've been studying in the comments here for you guys. It's really good. Really, really good video. Find it here. I'm going to put a link to this video in the comments. And I'm not endorsing these guys by any means, but what I am saying is this is where I got a lot of information from. Here we go. So this is an interview that a friend of mine, Rags to Riches, did with one of the founders of one of these services where they're trying to launch this on Pulse Chain. So I'm gonna have to click on it and pause it here. Boop. All right, so let me copy this right here and put this in the comments. So if you guys want to watch this, I think it's about an hour long, maybe longer. It might be as long as an hour and a half. Let me copy this and paste it into the comments for you guys. But yeah, he's talking to one of the founders or spokesmen for these projects that are hoping to put up a lending platform on Pulse when it launches and become a stable coin for it. And they actually have a flow chart that kind of shows you how the lockup would work and how the payout would work. But that YouTube link right there is the one that I was watching. And so if you guys have an interest in checking that full one out, then go for it. but that's where they're kind of explaining the ins and outs. And in that interview, he said, look, people are going to borrow money, right? They're not going to stop borrowing money just because it costs money to borrow money, right? And let's see, it's an hour and 17 minutes. So if you guys really want, you can check out that one right there. And then another another really great video that I was just watching of the really smart guy that I'm going to be interviewing on Wednesday. This is his testimonial right there, that second one. Or actually, maybe it's not. That second link may or may not work. I don't know if that's the link to the YouTube channel or not, but that's a guy named David Feeder that's in IT, and he's one of those big brain guys that we're going to sit down and try to get him to translate this into everyday language, everyday English for us. So does that make any more sense about where the money will be stored, or how this would work, or what security you'd have, or what advantages this may give us in the future?
It does. I'm still wondering, will it require the use of a stable coin on the Pulse network, or what will be the backing behind it?
Yeah, this is basically centralized around a stable coin, because if you were to get a loan in one coin and try to pay it back in another coin, and both of those coins were wildly fluctuating, then it would basically make a lot of those contracts go into default, right? Because if you're holding your value in one coin that fluctuates wildly, and you're trying to pay it back in another coin that fluctuates wildly, you might get lucky and you might be able to pay back that loan in a coin that's gone up tremendously, or chances are some people may try to manipulate the price of that other coin to cause more loans going into default. And so it kind of makes sense that this is with a stable coin, so that it's something that's easier to measure against. And then you only have the Pulse coin, or whatever coins people use to do their collateralization with, be the fluctuating one. And I mean, think about it this way: if Hex were a physical coin, or a dollar bill that people would actually accept in society right now, and you went to the gas station to fill up your car, would you give them the dollar bill, or would you give them the Hex dollar bill, like a piece of paper with your private keys written on it to actually hand out Hex? Which would you pay with?
I'm guessing that's a rhetorical question, right?
It's sort of rhetorical, but honestly, I mean, it's the same way with gold, right? So like people collected all the silver coins out of circulations with Gresham's law, which is basically, good money chases out bad, or people will spend the money of least quality or lower quality before they'll spend the money of higher quality, right? So that's what happened with gold and silver, and I believe that's what's going to happen with crypto as well, because crypto is, besides being a pain in the butt to get back and forth from your bank account right now, it's still much more likely to go up in value versus the US dollar bill right now, because the US dollar bill is being printed into oblivion, and inflation's hitting right now. You can see inflation hitting gas and food and housing the fastest, but eventually it's going to hit almost everything that we use in daily life. It's just going to continue to go up, not because it's a better product, but because the dollar's getting weaker and weaker. So that's a huge advantage, I think, of either providing collateral to these services, or borrowing the stable coin and spending it and paying back the stable coin, versus trying to grab try to time the market and pay back some cheap crypto, if that makes sense.
It's a really good job explaining. Thank you, Max.
No problem. Any other questions right now with everything going on? Like I said, there's a big party going on in New York and a big party going on in London on Hex's birthday, which is December 2nd. And a lot of people are really hoping that Richard Hart would announce the launch of Pulse Chain or something at that point, but that's probably not going to be the case. So that's coming up.
But I will.
Yeah, go ahead.
For anybody else if they have a question instead. But nobody else wants to ask something. I've got something. So just let me know.
It looks like it's all you.
Okay. And this is probably something that, especially based on a lot of the questions we had last week, people newer into Hex and Pulse. My thought often goes to, and I just was hoping that you would speak to it. We've seen that Hex has done really, really well. And even though it's in a dip, we are confident that it will keep doing well. That said, how much, and maybe how much is the right question, do you think there's a lot of fuel left in the, so to speak, the rocket? People speak about going to, how much growth does Hex realistically have left to do over the next 2, 3, 5 years?
That's a really good question. And I might need you to speak up a little bit. I'm having a hard time hearing you here. I'm not sure how it's coming across on the recording, but the question, let me try and restate your question for you. You're saying, Hex has gone up so much in the first 2 years of its existence. What is going to keep the momentum of it going upwards? Is that a fair way to rephrase your question?
That is way better than I did. Thank you so much, Matt.
No, you're doing great. I like the question. I love the question. And the thing that I look at is, I look at Bitcoin, at some of the other coins and how far they've gone up. I mean, we've done 10,000x. So for every Hex is worth 10,000 times more than it was at its low. And these other coins have done millions of X, right? And so these other coins, as far as, in my opinion, don't have useful code. They don't have as many incentives for people to hold and buy their coin as Hex does. And so just based on the performance of these other coins, I think that Hex has a long way to go before it even, could consider stalling out or losing momentum. The other thing that I look at is at this point in time, you can lock up your money for 6 years, and the average percentage of yield return, or the APY, is about 40%, right? So if you know that you're going to get a 40% return plus price appreciation, then I really don't see a price at which Hex becomes too expensive. So let's compare this to real estate, right? Let's say that there's an apartment building in your city, and that you're going to get after paying expenses and stuff, when you rent out this building, that you're going to make 40% yield a year or return on your money, right? You wouldn't really care how much that apartment costs, as long as you were going to for sure make 40% a year. Even if you had to wait those 6 years on that apartment, it would still be a really, really good investment, right? So I look at that the same way as Hex. Now, granted, the length is probably going to go out quite a bit because T-shares are harder and harder to get. So in order for the way that people compete for T-shares is they stake for longer and longer. So the average is going to go from about 6 years, where it is right now, to, much, much longer, maybe 7, 8, 9, 10 years, right? So even if people have to wait 8, 9, or 10 years to get 40% of their initial investment back, even though that's not in the dollar, I mean, like I said, that's if Hex flatlines. Let's say Hex stays at 20 cents forever, or 17 cents forever, and you still get 40% APY on that. People really won't care how long they have to lock it up for to get those returns, because those returns don't really exist in the traditional market. I mean, unless you are like someone on Shark Tank, these VC investors where you got in on the first or second round of Uber or Tesla, or, some really big company, you're never going to see those returns in the regular world, not 40% a year. And so just the fact that the code is going to do that, I think that it will continue to be seen by people as very valuable in the future, no matter how high the price climbs. We did see, and here's another thing, playing devil's advocate. A lot of people say, well, once Hex succeeds so well that everyone knows about it and it's gone viral, aren't people just going to copy it? And the answer in short order is yes. Yeah, people have already copied Hex. Unfortunately, they didn't get a few things right, and the people that have copied Hex have done very poorly compared to Hex. But let's say in the future they do a better job of copying Hex. That may take some market share away from Hex, but the truth is, the community of people that are involved in Hex, like that I've met in person and talked to over the phone, or that I've interviewed, they're a special breed of person. A lot of them are very smart. They're very passionate. They're actually very altruistic and giving by nature, and it feels more like a family than like a hobby, or a club that you like a like an automobile club. These guys that get together and play darts, or these guys that get together and collect classic cars. Like, they have that bond, but there's something different about the Hexicans. There's something different about our bond and the way that we come to each other's aid, and the way that we care about each other, and the respect that we have for each other, that I don't think you can copy the community of Hex. You might be able to copy the code, or basically reverse engineer the code and try to come with something very similar. But I don't think you can copy the human beings. And a lot of people have overlooked the community as part of the reason for the 10,000x that we've experienced. So those are a few of the things. So to sum up, as long as the code works, then the price should go up. As long as we have other coins that have done better, whose code is less useful, i.e. Bitcoin and Ethereum, the price should go up. And third of all, as long as you've got passionate, intelligent, fun-loving people in this community, the price should go up. And I really don't see any of those three things stopping in the future. The thing that's crippled us, that's literally crippled the price in the last 2 months, has been the Ethereum network fees. And those are human beings. Those are human beings that have the ability and the power to change something and have a negative effect on our community. And luckily, there's a group of human beings that are, I'm just going to say, have better intentions for our community, and they're currently putting together a better network for us. So that's something else to look forward to, that I think will be a really positive impact on the price and the value of Hex going forward. Anyone else got any comments, questions, anything else they want to explore?
What do you think about the volatility right now? How low it's dropped, just crypto period?
Um, it you mean the whole market or just Hex?
Yeah, hex the whole market, because even Shiba is even dipped almost half too.
Yeah, well, the whole market has had this explosion, right? It's like fireworks going off on the 4th of July or on New Year's Eve. Most of our bull markets, where the entire crypto market go up insanely, are about 2 months long. They're not really that long. The bull markets are usually 2 months long. Then the bear market takes almost exactly a year for the price to crash back down to all-time lows. And then it kind of sits there and hibernates for 2.5, 3 years until the next halving of Bitcoin, which was the big gorilla, right? So uh, if you think about planets and their mass and their gravity and the way they pull other planets into them, Bitcoin was the sun, right? It was, everything was rotating around Bitcoin. So when Bitcoin was doing great, everything else did great. When Bitcoin took a dive, everything else took a dive. And we've seen that for most of the 10, 12 years that people have been speculating and investing in crypto. And so right now we're seeing a time where if the cryptocurrency market loses its momentum at this point, the cycle or the pattern has been that it grinds down for the next year and then waits for the next halving of Bitcoin. So it looks like that's kind of where we're at now. We did do a double top, which isn't normal. Usually we do the spike like we did. We spiked to 20 grand last cycle and then grinded back down to like $3,000. And this time we spiked up to, 60 grand, 65 grand. And then it looked like we were on our way down, and then it popped back up to 66 grand or something like that. But chances are, unless someone pumps a ton of money, like if the Fed or these bankers pump a ton of money into Bitcoin to prop it up, like Weekend at Bernie's, then the rest of the market should stabilize. If it doesn't, then the whales and the traders that have been doing this for years and have enough money to actually, manipulate the price up and down, those boys are going to take their money and they're going to go back to sleep for a few years. That's what I think is going to happen.
Okay.
But the good news is that Hex has been less correlated and tied to these prices, right? So there's been a lot of days where you see that meme, the floor is lava, and everything is red except for Hex and like the stable coins, right? Because they're not supposed to go up and down. They're stable coins. And so there's a lot of days like that where we're trying to peg ourselves to the stable coins more than Bitcoin and Ethereum. And once we have the Pulse chain launch, then we're much more likely to be able to peg ourselves to a stable coin on the Pulse network, because we don't have to stomach those fees like we are right now on the ETH network. If you want to jump back and forth and tie your trades from Hex to USDC or USDT, you're losing hundreds of dollars in fees right now. Whereas on the Pulse network, it might be a lot easier to jump back and forth from a stable coin into Pulse and into Hex. So that's really good news for us, because that means the next time the whole market takes a dive back to the bottom of the ocean, we can stay, close to the surface or even continue to climb, especially when people see how stable and reliable the code of Hex is. Richard Hart and a lot of the Hexkins are always boasting and promoting the fact that we've had 100% uptime. And a lot of people are like, well, of course why wouldn't you have 100% uptime? Well, in crypto, that's not normal. I mean, Bitcoin was rolled back twice where there was a bug, and people were printing as many Bitcoin, like billions of Bitcoin, or there's one that they did print a ton of Bitcoin. And there's another one where they could have, but they found it and someone disclosed it in time. So those networks have been closed or shut down. And there's been other networks that have been shut off for an entire month where, oh, hey, our code was bad. It was faulty. We had some bugs and these people were able to exploit it. So we're just going to turn off the network for a month. So if you had coins in those networks and you wanted to get your money out or put your money in during that month, you were out of luck. Right. So
Mhm.
that wasn't even the question you asked. I'm just rambling now. I'm just going on a tangent.
No,
What
it's
was
okay. No, because
what was the
it's good
original
info.
question?
It was good info, though. It was
Right,
good
right. Oh,
information.
you were asking what I thought about the whole market. And yeah, I think that the market does do this 4-year cycle. And hopefully we break loose of that with Pulse Chain in this next year, where we really separate ourselves from the pack.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. I
Yeah,
thought we separate ourselves.
for sure. For sure. Any other questions, Pat, or anyone else here? Let's see, we've been going for about an hour now, give or take. So if you guys have another question, I'm more than happy to answer it. If not, we'll stop the recording and then I'll be uploading this onto YouTube for the other people that are hoping to get this information and, you know, couldn't make it here at this time. I know everyone is extremely busy these days. And so the fact that you guys took the time and effort to join me, I don't take that lightly. I really am honored and thankful for you guys coming, spending this time with me. I appreciate it very much. And to those people that are watching this on YouTube later, you know, we have a form that we put in there. You can fill it out and give us whatever email you want to receive an alert on, and we will send you the invitation to next week's live Zoom call where we'll do the same thing. I'll just go over basic information, answer questions, and actually by then I will have a live stream that I'm doing with Rags to Riches and with David Feeder, who is a big brain guy, and I'm going to be asking him these questions like, why is Pulse faster and cheaper than Ethereum? What other bugs are we looking at? You know, what's the possibility of these guys pulling off the stablecoin and the lending protocol, right? And hopefully he'll be able to speak to us like the 5-year-olds that we are and try to dumb it down for me and for my audience. So look forward to that. That's going to be it's scheduled for Wednesday at noon Mountain Time, 2 p.m. Eastern. So, you know, fingers crossed, knock on wood, you know, that'll go through. But other than that, if anyone's got any questions, I'll answer. If not, we'll stop the recording here. And I'll see you guys when I see you.
All right, Max. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Bad luck, bro.
Awesome.